Your task in this section was to explain what is the difference between event delegation and event bubbling in JavaScript. This is a very popular question asked in JavaScript and front-end interviews. Handling events is a crucial part of any modern web application. Every developer who works with JavaScript in the browser would benefit from having a deeper knowledge of how events work, what is event bubbling, and how to use event delegation to optimize the event handling in an app. Well, this is exactly what we are going to go over in this lesson. First, let's take a look at an example. On the top third of the page, you'll see on the left we have HTML, and on the right we have some JavaScript here. In the HTML, we have an unordered list of colors with lists of input checkboxes. We have event listeners on each of the checkboxes. Specifically, when they click on it, it should trigger this toggle done callback, which should just simply log out the event.target value. We also have this add colors function down here. And all it does is it will create 3 new checkboxes called with values red, green, and blue on the fly. So as you can see on the second portion of the screen, we have 3 input boxes that have been already rendered by the page up top for the purple, orange, and yellow, but red, green, and blue were rendered after page load. And the last third of our page on the bottom, here's our console. Let's check all the boxes and see what happens. Interesting. Why is it that the first 3 events are recognized, but not the last 3? I will pause for a moment for you to try and figure it out. Okay, so the reason this happens is that the first 3 inputs had already existed here on page load, but these last 3 were dynamically added after page load through this add colors function here in the JavaScript code. So what can we do to solve our problem? We want to add listeners to all of the checkboxes. What we can do to solve our problem is to use something called event delegation. What I mean by this is we can attach the event listener to the parent. So we can do something like this. Now we have added the event listener to the parent element instead. This ensures that anytime we click on any element inside of this parent element, we will fire the event listener that we want. Let's check all the boxes and see what happens. Great, the events are firing now for all the checkboxes. This is important because now we can be confident that a user clicked on the correct child node, even though the inputs were added to the DOM after the initial page load. And this is what is called event delegation. So, how does it differ from event bubbling? Let's take a look at another example. On our left here, we have three divs: a red div, a pink div, and a blue div. Each div has its own event listener, and when we click on a div in the browser, we're going to ask it to log out the class name by executing the function log class name. Let's click on the blue div and see what happens. As one would expect, when I click on the blue div, I see the blue class name logged out to the console. But I also see the pink and the red class names being logged out to the console. Why is that? This is called event bubbling. We see the class name logged for all of them because we added event listeners to each parent div. So going back to our previous example with event delegation, we had only one event listener, and it was set on our unordered list of colors. Yet when we clicked on a child of that parent HTML element, it fired the event listener we set that was bound to the unordered list. In contrast to event bubbling, you can place an event listener on a single parent HTML element that lives above an HTML child. And that event listener will get executed whenever an event occurs on any of its child nodes. In conclusion, event delegation makes it possible to handle events triggered by many elements in a single place, which is usually a parent element in the DOM. Event bubbling is the propagation of an event from the element where it happened towards the root or the parent element in the DOM. Great, that's it for this lesson. See you in the next video.